panic and havoc seen in the Russian Urals last winter when a meteor the size of a house exploded in the skies, well, we could be set for a repeat. Scientists say the huge rock might not have been flying solo as first thought, but rather as part of a group of asteroids which still pose a threat to Earth.
Hey, what's up everyone? It's Trio Mike. It's August 5th, 2013, and today Russia came out with a news report about the meteor that hit back in February. Now what they're saying is that this meteor has stragglers, about 20 stragglers that are roughly on the same trajectory. They go on to claim that there's nothing to worry about, We get the bullshit spew that we get from everybody when it comes to something like that. And then they go on to say that scientists are saying, don't worry. We've only had 34 days to study these asteroids, and we need 2 years to come up with an orbital path. Really? You guys need 2 years to come up with an orbital path? How'd you come up with your orbital path for Ison? How'd you come up with your orbital path for some of these other asteroids and comets that you guys are finding, and you're coming up with these orbits like with the quickness, NASA? I mean, come on. And now they're going to tell me, they're going to try and feed it to me on the news that they need 2 years to come up with some kind of orbital trajectory. I call bullshit. But let's go ahead and listen to this report from RT News really quick because it's kind of interesting. I'm not going to play the whole thing. I'm just going to cut it up, and I'm going to give you the most important parts of the interview, and I'll put the link for the entire newscast down in the description box. So let's go ahead and roll this real quick.
The RT's Lindsay France now joining me live to tell us more about this. Lindsay, good to see you. Oh gosh, let the panic begin. But before we get into what could be what some are already calling the buddies of this asteroid that came down earlier this year, can you remind us exactly what happened back in February?
Yeah, that's right, Rory. Who can forget the asteroid on the 15th of February hit around 9:20 local time. An 11,000-ton rock, 18 meters wide, crashed into Chelyabinsk. Story came out, people were very, very shocked because we all wanted to know why it wasn't detected, and it scared obviously a lot of people. No one was killed in this. More than 1,000 were injured, but no one lost their lives, and that was what was such a shock to so many in this situation. And that is the fear, is this went undetected. So that's why scientists are trying to figure out if there are more possibly on their way.
The dash cam videos are just absolutely startling, but the news today, Lindsay, is apparently that monster rock may not have been alone.
Exactly. Now, it is what scientists are calling sibling asteroids.
Now, it always scares me when they come out and they start talking about things like this, especially at a critical moment in time like right now. We're in August. It's August 5th. On the 11th, 12th, and 13th, we're going to have the best showing of the Perseus meteor shower. Now, what happens there is we're going to be moving through the debris field of Comet Swift-Tuttle. And when we do that, NASA, Bill Cook from NASA, is claiming in an interview on spaceweather.com that we're going to be experiencing about 1 to 6 fireballs per hour, and that it's not going to be uncommon. Okay, so now we have them saying we're going to be experiencing 1 to 6 fireballs per hour. Now I'm going to put that link down in the description box for you guys to check out. And that scares me. Why does that scare me? Because we had the meteor back in February with Russia. Now RT's coming out saying there's 20 friends coming along pretty much on the same trajectory. NASA's over here saying we need 2 years to figure out an orbit because we're dumbasses and we can't give you guys a straight answer. Everybody, their stories are not coming together. They're not coming together the way that they should. Instead of being like this, their stories are all like that. Fucking deep to deep.
We have found that one meteor shower produces more fireballs than any other, explains Bill Cook of NASA's Meteoroid Environment Office. It's the Perseid meteor shower, which peaks on August 12th and 13th. Using a network of meteor cameras distributed across the southern United States, Cook's team has been tracking fireball activity since 2008, and they have built up a database of hundreds of events to analyze. The data point to the Perseids as the fireball champion of annual meteor showers.
So, I don't know what's going on, but I want to know what's going on. So let's go ahead and keep an eye on activity for the next couple weeks and see what happens. And hopefully nothing happens. Hopefully we just have a really nice meteor shower, because they're not giving us an estimated time of arrival for these 20 friends that were coming along with the February meteor. And that also scares me, because they don't need 2 years to come up with orbits, people. They really don't. So I'm going to go ahead and end it with this next clip from the RT News. If you guys like the video, go ahead, hit that like button for me, subscribe to the channel, keep yourself updated. Until next time, this is Tree of Mike.
Specifically, would you have any idea about a timetable here? I mean, do you know, are they saying they
No,
might impact when and where, or?
A lot of these, they were only observing for 34 days. They need 2 years to actually see when something could ever hit Earth.
So as good as the world's telescopes are, national security and all that kind of stuff, they can spy on you doing anything anywhere, but they can't tell us when these guys are going to hit?
It's disheartening, isn't it?
It's pathetic.
I'll go check Twitter, see if they're releasing any new
Lindsay France,
information.
good luck
Doubt
to
it,
you.
though.
Good
All
luck
right.
to you. Cheers
Thanks a
for
lot.
that.
Are you serious? Are you serious? Edward Snowden, the NSA leaker, or most Americans feel the hero who revealed the secret information of the NSA and the wiretapping, the unconstitutional search and seizure electronically of the American public. Well, he's revealed more information than that. Vladimir Putin just recently gave him 1 year asylum in Russia. And President Barack Obama, very upset about that, has canceled his Russian summit with the Kremlin leader, Putin. Let me tell you what's going on. I got a report here. Edward Snowden has revealed secret documentations as it relates to the solar flares of the sun. I'm going to share it with you in just a moment. Get a cup of coffee. Are you serious? I want to thank Carla Richards for this report. Edward Snowden says solar flare, kill shot, and cataclysmic immediate danger. Now, news out of Moscow, Russia. Edward Snowden, the hacker, fugitive, and former National Security Agency or NSA contractor, revealed on July 23rd, 2013, that a series of solar flares is set to occur in September, killing hundreds of millions of people. Now, of course, that's potentially. Documents provided by Snowden prove that as of 14 years ago, the CIA remote viewers knew that the event was inevitable. Ever since, the world's governments have quietly been trying to prepare for the sweeping global famine to result. Is that what Jesus meant when he said there would be famines and pestilence and great earthquakes in divers places? Speaking from his room there at the airport at the hotel in Russia, Snowden revealed that the government preparations for September 2013's catastrophe solar flares have been to only limited avail. The flares results, he said, are known casually throughout the global intelligence community as the kill shot. Now, remote viewers employed by the CIA's Project STARGATE use their ability to perceive geographically and chronologically distant events to protect America. Since 1999, they have known about the solar flare event, but have been threatened into silence by enforcers on the secret government's payroll. As part of hiring Snowden as a contractor, the NSA granted the 30-year-old access to all communications on Earth. What? Now he has provided the Internet Chronicle with top secret Federal Emergency Management Agency, or FEMA, documents outlining just how terrible the solar flares results will be. In just 2 months, Killshot is set to disable all electronic, food, and water delivery systems. Now, ever since the late 20th century, hundreds of millions of people have begun to rely on technological automation to enable their very lives. Solar flares release electromagnetic pulses hazardous to electronic circuits. The smallest electronic circuits, such as those in computers, central processing units, will be the most vulnerable. Edward Snowden says that FEMA and the National Disaster Reduction Center of China have been taking steps for 14 years in light of the findings of Project STARGATE. FEMA's own documents provided by Snowden lay out how the organization plans to round up tens of millions of the poorest Americans for housing at secure locations to better facilitate the feeding and the provision of consumer goods. Could that be the infamous FEMA camps? The poorest Americans are going to go there? And you might as well throw in the conservatives, the religious leaders, the pastors, and everyone else. Is that the plan? Project Stargate? Is there really going to be a September kill shot? We know the sun is going to flip. We know NASA's telling us that. We know the comet Ison's coming. But what else is coming? Or is there anything else? Has Edward Snowden been duped? Or is something catastrophic on its way? Well, I can say this. I don't know if September, if anything will happen or not. But I do know something eventually will. And I can go to the book of Revelation and read to you what the scripture says will happen. If I go to Revelation 6 and just read about the sixth seal, I will find in verse 12, and I beheld when he had opened the sixth seal, or maybe the Stargate, and lo, there was a great earthquake, and the sun became black as sackcloth of hair, and the moon became as blood, and the stars of heaven fell unto the earth, even as a fig tree casteth her untimely figs when she's shaken of a mighty wind. And the heaven departed as a scroll, the kill shot. And when it is rolled together, and every mountain and island were moved out of their places, and the kings of the earth, the great men, the rich men, the chief captains, the mighty men, every bondman, every free man, hid themselves in the dens and in the rocks of the mountains. Is that why they're building those bunkers in Denver and around the world? And they said to the mountains and rocks, fall on us and hide us from the face of him that sitteth on the throne, and from the wrath of the Lamb. For the great day of his wrath is come, and who shall be able to stand? That event is going to happen. Whether it's in the kill shot, Stargate, Edward Snowden Chronicles, it's still the Word of God. It is going to happen. When? No one knows. But then Revelation chapter 8 brings up another point. Let's start reading in Revelation 8:8. And the second angel sounded as it were a great mountain, burning with fire, was cast into the sea. And the third part of the sea became blood. And the third part of the creatures which were in the sea had life died. And the third part of the ships were destroyed. And the third angel sounded, and there fell a great star from heaven, burning as it were a lamp, and it fell upon the third part of the rivers, and upon the fountains of waters. And the name of the star is called Wormwood. And the third part of the waters became wormwood, and many men died of the waters, because they were made bitter. Is that? And the fourth angel sounded, the third part of the sun was smitten. That's where only a third of the sun gets dark. And the third part of the moon, and the third part of the stars, so that a third part of them were darkened. And the day shone not for a third part of it, and the night likewise. And then we can go over to Revelation 16 and read just a couple verses there. Again, I don't know when that event's going to take place, but I know it's going to. And then in Revelation 16, beginning at verse 3, and the second angel poured out his vial upon the sea, and it became as the blood of a dead man. And every living soul died in the sea. And the third angel poured out his vial upon the rivers and the fountains of waters, and they became blood. And I heard an angel of the waters say, Thou art righteous, O Lord, which art, and was, and shall be, because thou hast judged us. For they have shed the blood of saints and prophets, and thou hast given them blood to drink, for they are worthy. Are you saved? Are you born again? Have you accepted Jesus Christ as your Savior? Because, folks, we're living in days that are so... Edward Snowden's a real leaker. Whether these... And I believe he's not lying. He has these documents. Now, the question is, are these documents accurate, or some other master plan that's coded? That I don't know. But I do know this. The Bible is true, and events are coming. And there is FEMA camps, and there is FEMA coffins, and there is guillotines, and there is a very frosty relationship now between President Obama and Vladimir Putin. And is some of this information, is that part of what's caused this rift? Are you saved? Give your life to Jesus Christ. Please, repent of your sins and ask Christ into your heart. To say, Jesus, I believe you're the Savior, and I know the world's not going to make it, but I know I'm going to a better place if I accept you. Repent of your sin. At a scene of a horrible car accident. What? Okay, everybody relax. Grab a Bible. I'm going to read the story to you. It's in the Word of God. It can happen. And first, let me just get a cup of coffee right now. Something biblical is going on. Jesus is coming. Here we go. Reverend Gary of Kentucky sent this to me. Yahoo News reporting, mystery angel priest appears to help trap teenager following a horrible car crash, then disappears. Now, some believe in angels and others don't, but a story coming out of Center, Missouri might lead skeptics to conclude that a higher power sometimes intervenes in the midst of tragedy. Of course, there's also the potential that a real-life priest is responsible for the life-saving act that's gaining widespread attention, and that he has simply yet to be found. All right, WKHQ-TV is reporting a story that seems virtually unbelievable. After Aaron Smith, 26 years old, struck Katie Lentz, 19, in a head-on car crash Sunday morning. Authorities claim they began a long rescue process. After 60 minutes of trying to get Katie Lentz out of the vehicle, she was pinned between the steering wheel and the seat. Rescue crews, at Lentz's request, prayed out loud for the trapped woman. She asked the men trying to get her out, please pray for me. Think about that for a moment. And that's when a mystery priest allegedly appeared. According to the accounts, he came out of nowhere, and he brought intense calm upon the situation. Quote, he came up and approached the patient and offered a prayer. New London Fire Chief Raymond Reed told WKHQ-TV, quote, it was a Catholic priest who had anointing oil with him. A sense of calmness just came over her, and it did us as well, he said. Considering how many people were at the scene and interacting with the mystery faith leader, the story is a fascinating one. Quote, I can't be for certain how it was said, but myself and other firefighters, we very plainly heard that we should remain calm, that our tools would work now, and that we would get her out of the vehicle, the firefighter added. Everybody there, they all heard it. They all heard this mystery priest, angel, say, your tools are going to work now. Everything's going to be fine. Stay calm. She's going to get out. Now, here's where things really get weird, it says. After another fire department showed up, the rescue proceeded easily, and the tools worked, as promised. But when nearly a dozen firefighters turned around to thank the priest, he was gone. The road was empty. Considering that the road was blocked off for a quarter of a mile during the rescue, and that no cars were around, the scenario on the surface seems a bit bizarre. Now, Katie Lentz's friends and family want to thank the priest, but so far, he's nowhere to be found. Where did this guy come from? Travis Weiserman said, speaking rhetorically,
Live, this is One for the Record. I'm Diana, and today is August 9th, 2013, and here are your news updates for today. It is Friday, late Friday evening. Sorry I had to work. I'm not sorry I had to work, but sorry I'm so late. Here are the news updates for today. Big show tonight, a big show, real big show. Here we go. Breaking news. BreakingNews.com. Let's see if we got any type of weather alerts. It's awfully pretty late in the night. Let's see. Things are running slow. Okay. Let's see here. Two planes collide at Melbourne Airport in Australia. No injuries reported. This is coming out of News Camus HQ 1 hour ago. Heads up. A lot of plane mishaps. California silver fire grows to 18,000 acres, 40% contained. That's 2 hours ago. Activists fight demolition plans at ex-nuclear base near Los Angeles, California, saying buildings are still radioactive. Whoa, coming out of NBC LA. Heads up, that's 2 hours ago. At least 2 people reported injured. Multiple gas leaks reported after flash floods in Manitou Springs, Colorado. That's coming out of the Storm Chaser 4850 2 hours ago. Alright, moving on. Wow, what radioactive building near Los Angeles? Very strange. Tropical storm Utor developed in western North Pacific. Also, France confirms it will continue ban on GMO corn despite council ruling. Alrighty there. 40-year-old Magellanic Stream mystery solved. Dolphins granted personhood by government of India. Hey, dolphins are people too. Right on. There you go. I'll say it again. Dolphins granted personhood by government of India. There you go. Very interesting. Alrighty. I think that's more important than having a corporation as a person. The dolphins are people. There you go. Alright. The Watchers watching the world. Water leaks at Fukushima nuclear plant could contaminate entire Pacific Ocean. U.S. declares unusual mortality event as dolphins' deaths rise on East Coast. 3 injured, hundreds evacuated as Southern California wildfire rages. Okay. Moving on. E&E News, Energy News. Japan, Fukushima, which won't load. I can't get the whole story on here. It's jammed up. Alrighty then, yep, frozen. TV, I'm gonna just read, I can't see the whole thing, but I'll give you part of it. TV, young kids play in ocean nearby leaking Fukushima plant. Real cause for, it's probably, and then it goes ... Probably real cause for alarm or something. TEPCO, it's unforgivable that radioactive material is leaking out of control. PBS, 30 times more strontium-90 than cesium at Fukushima. Can't give you the whole topic. Top official, this is probably yesterday's. The current situation is extremely severe at Fukushima. Alright. Well, since we have a big show tonight, and that's all frozen, that's I don't know if they're putting up more things or it's just real slow over there in the E&E News, Energy News. Let's move on. You can listen to what Dr. Deagle has to say. Now remember, it's from a radio program, so that's why you really see nothing, and that way you can walk around, just listen to it. It's like a radio station. So there's nothing on the screen. You don't have to sit there and stare at nothing. You can go around and actually do things around the house or what you need to do to listen to it or do other things. No need to stare at the screen. And then after that, Part 1 of Coast to Coast News, August 7th, 2013. Alrighty then. And so was Dr. Deagle's show. That's Thursday's show. I still have to upload today's show. It's not up yet to where I can transfer it. So, alrighty then. So, for a few days we'll be playing the Coast to Coast. See, it's not on the radio out here anymore for some reason. Something's happened. It's been replaced. I also wanted to listen to Ground Zero. That's not coming on either. I'll have to check tonight, but the last couple nights, Coast to Coast hasn't been on. Alrighty then, in my area, in Central Florida. Alrighty, take care, be safe. It is 5 days down. We made it. We're going into the weekend now. Be prepared for anything, and think starting Monday, unless there's a major occurrence, then we're going to lighten it up here between the news. I'll put more different types of interesting things. Alrighty then. But I will run I'm piecemealing the Coast to Coast since it's so long. It's like 3 hours long. I'm just putting segments in every day so you can get caught up with some of it. This one's about, well, they'll tell you about it. It has to do with transportation and leaving your body and weird stuff. Transporting yourself. And after that one, I'm going to be uploading the Bureau. Also, I'm putting on here, I think it's Dark Sky 74. I believe that's his name. I'll add that to my, my descriptions. He thinks something's going on with the meteors. I talked about it yesterday. Now I'm going to play it for you. The one that hit Russia. That one meteor supposedly has 20 friends tagging behind it. So, on the same trajectory. So, heads up on that. And then maybe we'll start lightening it up on Monday. Get some more entertainment in there. I'm just trying to show you all the entertainment and how to be in shape and all the things you can do without machines. And what people do for entertainment. All kinds of good stuff. So I'm going to start uploading that too. Alright, it's like a variety news show now. Alright, take care. Be safe. I'll see you tomorrow. On the flip side. Not as late, I hope, tomorrow. Alrighty then.
So when they think smugly they're not going to get it, the radiation levels along the coast of South America are actually higher than here. Tell us about that, Chris, because this is important people grasp that the entire world ocean currents, it takes about 2 years if a shearwater gull is sitting in these ocean currents to literally circumnavigate the planet through the transoceanic currents. These are giant seagulls that literally sit out in the ocean and kind of, little ride the waves and these oceanic currents all over the planet, so they can be sitting off Fukushima, and 2 years later they're sitting off of Johannesburg, South Africa, or in the Indian Ocean. People need to grasp that this is poisoning the entire planet. This is not a good thing, and it's aqueous, it's oceanic current flow that's bringing most of this radiation. It's primarily ocean, not airborne.
And this is something we discussed last week, and actually for years now that this would be an aqueous release. I guess by now all your listeners have heard the news breaking that TEPCO has finally admitted that there are hundreds of tons of contaminated seawater leaving, or actually water entering the sea. Well, why? Because the contour of the Fukushima area is that it's at the bottom of an aquifer, and where it all leads into the ocean. So anything that comes down would basically get to the bottom of the hill right before it hits the ocean. So all the underground water and the streams and the aquifers all flood into the Fukushima site. They get contaminated, and that's why I was pretty set on saying you've got to cover the plant up. I didn't even realize back then that the underground currents were so vast, basically rivers. It's all flowing into Fukushima, picking up the residue of the radionuclides and going out to the ocean. This is what's happening.
Trans-equatorial, and there's also there's 3 levels of current. We've got tropospheric air spread. The radiation levels were spiking for about 6 to 8 weeks, around 90 to 105, 110, and that went back down to 2 times background for about 6 weeks ago. It just spiked up yesterday and today, now over 80 counts per minute, and we're not in the main pipeline of radiation. The main airborne area is heading toward Washington and Oregon, but the oceanic currents of the Kuroshi, which splits, heads north toward Alaska, south along the California coast, and goes all the way down to South America along, Argentina, Chile, and most people don't realize that these currents, that's why they saw surges in radiation along the eastern coast of Australia last year, with a major surge in radiation, because these transoceanic jet stream currents can carry up to 300 miles per hour levels of radiation. The water flow is 300 times the water flow of the Amazon River. And so when people think there is no trans-equatorial contamination, I just moved to the southern hemisphere to Patagonia, they're nuts. It's not going to be that way. And the problem is that we're not just poisoning the Pacific Ocean to turn it into the plutonium sea. This is a natural disaster that's the greatest extinction level event that's ongoing, and nobody, Obama, the United Nations, the International Atomic Energy Commission, TEPCO, General Electric, nobody is doing a thing. And what they do is stupid. They should be converting the radioactive waste to solid and then disposing of it, instead of creating more water that they have no place to store it, and the storage tanks are leaking. And we have now hydrovolcanic venting and these criticality reactions, and increasing the levels of tritium in the underground water slows neutrons and increases the chances of a nuclear explosion. So they're turning this into a bomb, is what they're doing. They're turning the entire site into a lava lamp nuclear criticality bomb. That's not good.
Well, there are sporadic criticalities, as evidenced by some of the nuclides that are coming out. The ones that there's even more. The ones that they don't test for, would be really indicative of it. So, and I'd like to see a neutron streaming map, but of course they're not going to test for that, because if you don't want to know the answer,
you can actually fly an aircraft over with what's called a neutron camera. And
sure.
they actually do that. They actually have what's called beta cameras. They fly over every city to look for beta emitters to see if somebody's storing nuclear waste or nuclear materials, or getting ready with a nuclear bomb they're going to blow off as a container size or suitcase nuke. Over every city in the Western world, they do it every week. They also have satellite-based imaging technology to look for torsion field images of isotopes from space, and they actually fly aircraft over the hot spots. They show up on those maps. I know because I had a kilo of security clearance, and this is what we do. The problem is you can go down to 1 kilo up to 440 meters below ground. The problem is the real issue, which is Fukushima. There's more radioisotopes now in the ground than all the nuclear weapons ever exploded, multiplied by 10,000 times. This is mind-boggling. There's so much radioisotopes there, it could blow up thousands of Earths.
Yes, guys, but you know what? All those plants haven't melted down yet. And the fuel storage pools mostly are still fairly contained. They're not going to be for much longer. So the problem that you have right now is they're saying could last for 30 years at its current level of 300 tons of highly radioactive water flowing in the Pacific a day. This level could get much worse.
Well, what they need to do is they need to put borinated water in there and turn it into a giant crystal, turn it into a solid radioactive waste, isolate these areas of criticality rather than amplifying the chances of a nuclear explosion. And they need an aquarium catcher to catch these things so it doesn't go to China, which is not very far away. We can't say go to China because it's in Japan, right? It would be go to the opposite side of the world, which is not going to do, but it's a metaphor. The Fukushima situation is a good example of purposeful mismanagement. And the reason why, it's Agenda 21, it's population reduction, it's a form of genetic abortion of the Japanese population, which is already disappearing. At its current rate of population replenishing of 1.1 child per family, the Japanese are literally going extinct. In Japan, it's estimated that about 100 to 120 years, there will be no Japanese left.
Yeah, but that doesn't take into account Fukushima.
Pardon me?
The main damage control TEPCO did was basically...
That was before Fukushima. Now that's accelerated, and what's going on, and I just talked to a lady just yesterday doing a consult who got a thyroid nodule. The rate of strokes caused by radioisotopes in Fukushima has increased 3,500% in northern Japan. And a lot of people don't realize after Chernobyl, many men were dying in their 20s and late 20s, early 30s of stroke and heart attack caused by radioisotope-induced endothelial damage and heart attack and stroke and vascular disease. So people aren't going to live long enough to get cancer unless they have a rapidly evolving one. They're going to die of other illnesses first. Immune system failure, super infections, vascular disease, stroke, heart attack, deep vein thrombosis. Other things will kill them long before they live long enough to get cancer. And that's not just that's no joke. That's happening now. It's been estimated that in America, since 2.5 years, 20,000 Americans have died prematurely caused by Fukushima. That doesn't include preemie babies, where the fatality rate went up 42% in ICNs across America. Within 6 weeks, the rate of death in intensive care nurseries went up 42%. This is no joke.
The amazing thing is you don't get those figures from mainstream news media, do you?
Well, I call them lame brain news media. They don't want to bring them up because these are published studies, by the way, by actual doctors and scientists. They're just kind of looking at the cold, hard facts and just using statistics to analyze and say, my, since Fukushima, look at all these numbers changing. And what changed? Fukushima changed. Now, what's happening is people can do things. They can get the pure water system water. They can take Nutritrala. They can start taking NutriDefense, our nutraceuticals. They can take Nutriodine to block radioiodine 131 so they don't get mitochondrial failure. They can start getting ready for the airborne plagues, because as the population's immune system herd immunity drops, these emergent super plagues after the Hajj in September, October, and the emergence of H7N9, which is replicating, this is from Chinese and American and British scientists, the virus is replicating 80,000 times faster than any other known flu virus in history. Welcome back, and we have solutions for the problem. If you look at our radiation protection protocol, if you look at a protocol for protection against the flu, I mentioned H7N9. Here's the short list again. If you're listening, government, if you're listening, TEPCO, General Electric, this is what you need to do. Number one, you need to convert the liquid waste to solid radioactive waste. That technology already exists. Number two, you need to bring in cabled or radiation-proof robots like the IEEE chip Atmel robots for deep space exploration, which I know NASA has. Part of what's called Tier 1 science. Number 3, you need a corium catcher to catch the corium and know where the hell it is with radiation detection using aircraft or drones that fly over that actually measure neutron flux. That's why you can see at night neutron beams literally coming out of Fukushima Daiichi. When it hits nitrogen over the site up to 20, 30 miles, you'll see blue beams literally shooting up into the sky. Those are actually the oxidation of nitrogen caused by neutron flux beams that are firing off from the radiation depot there. We also need to have beta detectors that are flown over by drones so we can map them, ground penetrating radar, etc. We need to have not just a seawall. These idiots put a seawall up, but then they knew where was the water going to go. Well, it flows over the top of the wall and makes the entire ground saturated like a front yard in Houston. Have you ever gone down to Houston or along the Baytown area? You walk on the lawn, it's like walking on a sponge full of water. It's like, what? The whole place is so radioactive you can't walk around. These people take stupidity to an Olympic level. And the problem is we need to put it, to actually fix it's going to cost not billions, but trillions of dollars. And it's not just a problem in TEPCO, by the way. If we have major earthquakes, volcanoes, or extreme weather, we're sitting on at least 1/3 of the nuclear reactors in America are within a strike zone, say along the Madrid fault system, Diablo Canyon reactor that's sitting up in Northern California. All these reactors are sitting on or near fault lines in the strike zone, or extreme weather, or could be flooded where they lose backup power systems. And the same system is things going on. Most people don't realize Switzerland is very geotectonically active, so the Swiss were smart enough to actually schedule, although it's slow, to shut down all 5 of their reactors. Well, their schedule is really, really slow, but they realized if they have a major earthquake, they're going to major release, and their entire little country will become radioactive. So we got a problem, and we also, all of these sites are perfect sites for terrorism. If you want to really cause trouble, you take an APC or an aircraft or a drone and you just fly the sucker into one of these storage depots in any of these sites. I mentioned this to the senior ranking senator back right after 9/11, that I was one of the doctors taking care after Royal Shell was taking care of the website, the site over at Rocky Flats, and I said, look, all of this stuff is sitting on concrete pads, including radioactive liquid plutonium, etc., as waste. If you wanted to hit it, all you need to do is buy under $20,000 an APC or fly an aircraft in there, even a fixed-wing, regular small aircraft like a Cessna, and you could blow the hell out of the place and make the western United States radioactive just by normal airflow. So, you know, we're just asking for it. And I want to mention something else Jerry mentioned. Every one of our embassies worldwide security is provided by the host country. So we have a token Marine inside the building, 1 or 2 or whatever. You know, no wonder they had to close the embassies. When they reopen them, they should have fired all of these foreign people in any Muslim country, and we should have Americans, American military, running and protecting inside those walls. They should be armed to the teeth with serious teeth, and I'm talking about military backup, so that nobody in their right mind would dare breach the walls of our embassy. This is craziness. So we have a foreign policy in Muslim countries where we tolerate foreign security forces supposedly protecting our embassy. What the hell are we doing?
I think, by the way, in Fukushima's case, guys, I think TEMCO, it's way beyond them, and whether it costs $1 trillion or whatever, it's now a global problem. It's a problem for all countries to step up to the plate and do something about it. Of course, nobody seems to want to do that.
No, we don't window dressing. Everything
let me clean up a comment I put on my site a couple of days ago about TEPCO, and since we're on the air, I'll clean it up a little bit. TEPCO could not find his collective butt with both hands, or pour urine out of a boot with a toe cut off and directions printed on the bottom. And I mean, it's that bad.
Well, what we have is we have people that have had lobotomized accountants running TEPCO, and they say, no money, no money. Don't worry about if it sterilizes your wife or makes your nose fall off or makes you end up dying of leukemia a year later and your hair fall off and your blood bleed from every orifice. You know, the Japanese are devastated by this, and they're in a state of radiation denial now. It's really very scary. Very smart, wonderful people are being destroyed by this, and our brothers and sisters in Japan are suffering. Plus, we're in the tailpipe of this damn thing, and if it blows, here's what's going to happen. Have you ever heard of a thing called a hydrovolcanic super explosion? And it's very near Mount Fuji, which is also refilling the magma chamber. We could literally have, and there's been ancient prophecies in Japan, that Japan will disappear under the seas with a giant explosion. Now, if this blows, it could create a tsunami that could be half a mile high. And that tsunami could cross right over the Pacific Ocean and hit California, Oregon, Washington State, Canada, the Vancouver Island, the Queen Charlotte Islands, all the way down to South America to Chile. And people say, oh no, that can't happen. Yes, it damn well can. And not only that, a good chunk of Japan could disappear.
Let me
People
just
need to understand this is very
usual.
real. This is a very real disaster. And it could trigger off super volcano explosions like Fuji. Fuji is not just a normal volcano. This is a volcano that every 150 years devastates and destroys everything within about 150 to 200 miles.
But it hasn't been active since the 1700s. But now it is.
It's due. It's actually
it's overdue.
past due that it's going to blow. And when it blew last time, that's why the Japanese have all this mythology about the dragon and about Fuji and stuff. If you talk to Japanese about Fuji, they shudder. They know that this sucker, when it decides to blow, Mount Fuji blows, and it turns out that the fault lines run directly from Fukushima Daiichi right across northern Honshu directly to the magma chambers of Mount Fuji that's refilling.
You're talking about the collapse of the fishing industry too. I mean,
right. Well, that's why they're going over to that's why they're going over to Korea to steal the fish from the Koreans and challenge their islands.
I'm talking about ones. I'm talking about ones even on the Alaskan shore too. I mean,
exactly.
Everything is affected. And as
I have a friend that lives up there, and she talks about the great salmon, that they eat and they catch and they grill it, and how so good it is. And I almost said, yeah, right. It it glows in the dark.
Well, as I tell you, just what I do is I'll take with my radiation detector out and just put it near it. If it goes click, 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 back away from the fish counter.
Back out.
By the way, the South Koreans are real smart. They actually have radiation detectors at every fish counter in South Korea. So if you go to Seoul,
they do.
The Koreans are actually smart enough and decent enough to each other. They will show to you, we've got clean fish here. Take the radiation detector, put it near the fish, and the fish don't go click, click, click. You can put it in your basket and take it home. Okay? Here in America, they won't tell the congressman.
They probably return my calls. You tried that.
Yeah, and here, and by the way, when I got great disrespect from the so-called nuclear expert under Senator Feinstein, who was a young idiot, who I asked him specific questions. I was a member of the nuclear division of ACOM for years, and I asked him the so-called expert, what they were doing. They said, well, our radiation detector centers are working great. They're what's called the beta radiation centers. And I said, well, they disassembled and never was put back up. One of the ones that went the highest count, over 500 counts per minute up in Boise, Idaho. They're basically disassembling centers. They're in the mountains where the jet stream pulls down radiation and they get super high readings. They actually turn them off. And they don't replace the equipment either. So I said, your real problem is you don't have what's called plume data for live plumes, which you can put in the aircraft and have real-time, Wi-Fi connection. So you know the specific pattern or the flight path of the aircraft and exactly can do real-time analysis of where the plumes are and the radiation levels. We can do air sampling and look at the radiation profile of which isotopes are present in that plume, because most of the time, by the way, when these things get airborne, they're going to get up 10, 20, 30,000 feet, probably between 20 and 30,000 feet, and those plumes might only be 2 or 3 miles wide. And they're a long finger of radiation shooting across the Pacific Ocean and across North America. And they're ephemeral. They come and go, and unless we have data, we have no idea what's actually up there. So someone can be flying through it, and all of a sudden the air is sucking into the aircraft, and you can get a massive surge. I brought my detector when I flew up to Oregon last fall, and boy, my eyes popped out of my head. My wife looked at me and said, what are you looking at, Bill? I said, my radiation detector went crazy, just as we were flying into Portland, Oregon.
Well, folks, get right with God. He loves us all, and we're in very
data.
Interesting times. And no Chinese curse. May you live in interesting times, and I think we're in the most interesting.
Well, if we can ask better questions, but we are being stymied by our so-called politicians who want to silence us and say, Deagle, shut the hell up, don't ask any more questions. Don't do it.
From the City of Angels off the Pacific Ocean, good morning, good evening, wherever you may be across the nation, around the world. I'm George Norrie, and welcome to Coast AM. Split show for you tonight. Later on, Planet X and more on the sun. Here's what's happening. Well, researchers have now reported the very first case of human-to-human transmission of the new strain of bird flu that has emerged in China. The British Medical Journal said a 32-year-old woman was infected after caring for her father. Both later died. Now, until now, there had been no evidence of anyone catching the H7N9 virus other than direct contact with birds. It's changing. It's a well-known adage, drinking too much soda is bad for you, but just how bad is excessive consumption for your body? Well, the average American consumes 45 gallons of sugary sweetened beverages a year, according to a 2011 study. The unanimous answer from experts, this is very bad for you. Regular soda isn't the only culprit. Even diet drinks, which utilize artificial sweeteners in place of sugar, could still negatively impact your health. High rates of soda consumption have been linked with numerous health problems, including weight gain, poor dental health, diabetes, cardiovascular disease. A bizarre discovery on the New Jersey shore. A fisherman there made a very gruesome discovery, a black high-top sneaker with the remains of a foot inside. State police asking people for any information. Now, the shoe was an Adidas size 5.5 for the right foot. Some of the toes had nail polish on them. At least a dozen detached feet have washed up along the coast of British Columbia and Washington State since 2007, most inside shoes or boots there. New York City subway riders got a surprise of their life when a dead shark was discovered on a Queens-bound subway train. A supervisor found the 4-foot-long carcass shortly after midnight, moved the passengers into another car, and discarded it at the end of the line. As we've been reporting, the sun's enormous magnetic field is about to flip, and the effects of this massive realignment will be felt throughout the solar system, including Earth. The sun flips its magnetic field once every 11 years. At the same time, it reaches its solar maximum when our sunspots and solar flares are at their height. James McCanney, the physicist, with us. Jim, this means big X flares, doesn't it?
Well, George, the sun is at its weakest point in what I consider about 200 years. We've had some false reports of big solar flares, but we'll have to wait and see. I've seen what I consider grave exaggerations, that the tropics will no longer be tropical and that the northern climates will be eternally tropical. But I believe these are exaggerations. We are in a warming trend on Earth, but the solar cycle, the flipping of the magnetic field has happened. It happens every 11 years. So we'll have to wait and see. But the other issue is the solar flares. We're still waiting for what we consider solar maximum. NASA the other day said that we've actually turned the corner in the sun's solar spot. The sunspot count is going down, meaning we've actually peaked this solar cycle. I heard another report that said it won't happen until 2014. So I'm getting mixed reports on this, but at any rate, we'll have to wait and see.
James, why do they seem to be pushing some doom and gloom with this?
I don't know, unless they're looking for funding. That's a lot of times the reason when you see the professional agencies doing this. The congressmen are looking and they're trying to influence them. This is important. We need more study. Give them money. that's the only reason I can see. It was rather odd the other day. There was a group of independent scientists who advised the president, who said we had a near Carrington event, a near miss of a solar flare. They reported it in the Washington
Times.
I forget the paper.
Washington Times.
Washington Herald or
Times.
Okay. And then spaceweather.com came out and said no, it didn't happen. So, and I did not see anything myself that looked like a near Carrington flare that missed us.
No, everybody Jim reported on it. They did. Professor McCanney's website, jmccanneyscience.com. Now, you might not know the name Margaret Pellegrini, but she was one of the last surviving Munchkins from the original production of The Wizard of Oz. She has died. She was 89. Pellegrini played the flower pot Munchkin and one of the sleepyhead kids in the classic 1939 film. Pellegrini's death leaves only 2 surviving Munchkins, including Lollipop Kid Jerry Marin, he's 93, lives in L.A., and Ruth Duccini, 95, lives in Phoenix. Up next, a little bit of time traveling, energy healing with who but Dr. Bruce Goldberg next on Coast to Coast AM. Well, welcome back to Coast to Coast. He's a regular, Dr. Bruce Goldberg, of course, holding advanced degrees in dentistry and counseling, psychology. He conducts international hypnotherapy practice in Woodland Hills, California. Now he specializes in reincarnation, time travel, soul healing, energy healing as well. And here he is on Coast to Coast, Dr. Bruce Goldberg. Bruce, how are you?
I'm fine, George, a.k.a. Dexter Monterey. It's a pleasure to reincarnate. Hey, listen, you know what I have planned for tonight and this morning, depending on what part of the world people are listening? We're going to have a flow here from talking about healing using the superconscious mind tap and the fifth dimension to out-of-body experiences where people can actually be supervised by their time travelers, spirit guides, and angels, leading into teleportation, and the baked Alaska part of this will be actual ascension, to show you how you can eliminate the reincarnation cycle, do not pass go, do not collect $200 or bitcoins or whatever you got, and move on. So we're going to talk about one leads to the other. So healing is the first phase because it's critical. You have to perfect the soul in order to ascend, and obviously you want to improve your life and dynamics and everything else going on. That, everybody wants to do that, and it can be done. And not only can it be done through hypnosis and accessing and tapping into your higher self, but we're also always talking about the fifth dimension, traveling into beyond what we call time into the fifth dimension.
Bruce, people seem to be very fascinated lately with reincarnation.
Oh, yes. As a matter of fact, the reincarnation always gets, it's always popular, but it gets more now. People are getting a little bit more New Age oriented. And you mentioned, like, your commercial there about the Ancestry.com. Well, people want to have a different kind of ancestry. They want to find out about their own karmic flow. Yes, I get tons of requests about, and you've made a lot of referrals on the air. I know people have called me and said, George told me to call you about going into a regression or progression. I appreciate that. But yeah, it's all the new age topics are popular. I mean, it's not just looking at Hollywood films and TV shows, but and books, of course, and workshops and things. It's just the angst of our society. People want to explore, and they want to learn more, and they want to improve. But see, when we talk about all these exotic topics like time travels and teleportation stuff, it all comes down to what is one of the most popular effects we get from your audience, and any audience of anything I do. It's always the healing part.
Absolutely. Bruce, you've talked about the superconscious mind tap. What is that?
Okay, well, first, let's refer to the figure 1, those that go to the highlight section on the website. There is a figure, I call this figure 1, where the superconscious mind tap is a technique I developed way back in 1977, of all times. And what this is a way of our subconscious mind, which is the soul. It's like a TV signal or radio signal occupying your body. It's what the soul is. But it's imperfect. People have problems. So the chart shows that you have the physical level on the bottom. You have the emotional level. Our emotions do affect the physical body. Psychosomatic medicine is a good example. And then you have the energy level on top. That represents the soul's energy, but it also represents the connection with its perfect counterpart. That would be what we call the superconscious mind. The lay term is the higher self. Okay?
All right.
So if you access the higher self, just think of it this way. Think of people as we get into the colder weather time later on this year, people who live in other climates other than Southern California. You know, if you go outside to get your paper or whatever, or just see what's going on, it's a cold day, your body is chilly, you're not dressed very well, it's early in the morning, let's say, and then you go back into your heated house, your body will warm up because you're exposed to higher heat energy. So if you associate or introduce your compromised soul or subconscious mind's energy to its perfect counterpart, the superconscious can never be compromised. Its perfect energy will always be perfect. But what it will do is help raise your level of consciousness. We call this a frequency vibrational rate increase, to use physics terms. And it's like your immune system. It's like an energy immune system. And as it does so, you become immune to the issues you were previously vulnerable to, as well as you can actually cure and resolve major medical issues that cannot be treated medically, as we'll discuss. So the superconscious mind tap is what I call part of the soul healing cycle. Just think of it this way. Soul healing is an energy healing and a total way of life. I call this psychic empowerment. Using your subconscious and higher self connection, the psychic part, to take charge of your life. It's more than just overcoming illness, but it requires 4 conditions to do this. 1, you must desire soul healing. You have to be internally motivated. If somebody's nagging you to do it, it's not going to work. Okay? Number 2, you must be disciplined to do something on a regular basis. I recommend the superconscious mind tap with hypnosis. People can use meditation, yoga, biofeedback, whatever. They're all alpha techniques. They're all the same, at least in brainwaves. Number 3, you must have faith in the process. You got to believe. Now, interestingly enough, you don't have to believe in me. Okay? You don't have to believe in my books, workshops, or whatever. You just have to believe that you yourself have the ability to overcome illness and to get back into a normal homeostatic level.
If you don't, you can't do this.
Well, you will fail. You will either be very delayed, or you will just plain fail. And step number 4 is the most important one. It's the creme de la creme here, and that is you have to access your higher self. Because you see, people, your listeners are so kind. Over the years, you've had calls. We've had so many calls. People say, Dr. Goldberg cured me of this. I don't cure anyone of anything. What I do is introduce them. I'm like the social director on the karmic cruise ship. Okay?
That hopefully doesn't run aground.
Yes, the love boat here, okay? We're going back to the 70s again. So my point is that I'm introducing the patient's subconscious mind or soul to its higher self. The higher self, the perfect energy, it comes from the God energy complex. That's what cures people of all these habits and phobias and illnesses that I've worked with over the last 39 years in this field.